When the alien sorceress known as Jadis conquered Narnia in the year 900 NT, she famously cast the nation into an enchanted winter. And while this curse was incredibly oppressive to the citizens of Narnia, it did not destroy them. So it's no surprise that one of the most often asked questions on this channel is, how did the Narnians survive the 100-year winter? Well, today we're going to answer that question.
And a big thank you to all the Patreon supporters out there who made today's episode possible. You all have created such a special community, and I'm so thankful for your support, especially during this season. So thanks again. Well, let's go ahead and get started.
It's time to leave the Shadowlands behind and step into a world that's more real than our own. It's time to follow me into the wardrobe. When we talk about the curse of the 100-year winter, one of the first things you need to understand is exactly why the White Witch chose that particular enchantment in the first place. You see, for Jadis, her greatest desire was for power. And if you recall from your Charnian history, Jadis fought a devastating war on her native planet of Charn, one that would ultimately destroy every living creature, all over Jadis' desire to rule her Charnian empire. But after the dust settled and she stood alone in a world of total desolation, she realized her terrible mistake, that one cannot truly rule without someone to rule over. And so when she conquered Narnia, she was careful not to repeat the same mistake twice. Her goal was not to destroy Narnia, but to subdue it, to brutally oppress the people into complete submission. And the eternal winter was the perfect way to guarantee obedience. How? Well, historically, we know that harsh winters make it nearly impossible for armies to fight effectively, essentially protecting Jadis against any sort of potential Narnian rebellion. Moreover, as a psychological weapon, the winter created a sort of mass depression across the entire population, killing the desire to rebel in the first place. And then the snow and ice, it also hindered travel. It would create a geographical separation between the villages and the towns, making it much easier for the Queen's secret police to monitor movement and communications between the population. But probably most importantly, it absolutely decimated Narnia's economy, with the loss of access to natural resources and closed-off trade routes and no real means of agricultural production. And as a result, Narnians lost their ability to provide for themselves, and they became dependent on Jadis for their very survival. So where did Narnians get these basic necessities for survival? Things like food and shelter and fuel for warmth in the harsh, barren wasteland. Well, I think there are three main ways that this could have happened, and I actually think it was a combination of all three, and we'll talk about them now. Number one, Jadis provision. You know, in our world, Henry Kissinger was famous for saying, control the food supply and control the people. It's highly likely that the vast majority of food was distributed to the people by Jadis' government, all according to her plan, again, starting with the eternal winter. Now, the enchantment was only confined to the boundaries of the Narnian nation, while the rest of the Narnian world wasn't affected by this curse at all. For example, in the account of The Horse and His Boy, the Tisroc mentions that the Calormans preferred to stay away from Narnia during the 100-year winter because of the curse. All that to say, Jadis most likely imported most of the Narnian food from the surrounding nations, be it Calorman rice, Telmarine corn, Arkenland grains, or spices and fruits from the islands of the Great Eastern Ocean. Livestock could have been kept just past the borders in the gray zones like the Southern March or the wildlands of the North. Jadis' alliance with the Northern Giants may have also played into these international trade agreements, which leads to the next option. Number two, smuggling. While Jadis seemed to be able to use her magic to keep Narnian citizens trapped within the confines of their borders, or in Father Christmas's case, outside the border, other foreigners may not have been as affected by the enchantment, if at all, or they may have been able to use mechanical means to exchange goods and currency with those inside the border, assuming, of course, that they could avoid detection by Jadis' intelligence network. It is plausible that an underground black market was formed over the years, providing Narnians with a way to acquire items from the outside world. For example, when the Pevensies had dinner with the beavers, they were served marmalade. Now, you probably know that marmalade was created as an ancient way to preserve nutritious fruit during the harsh winter months and over long journeys. This would have been the perfect food to ship from the tropical islands or across the Calorman Desert, making sure that it remained unspoiled during the journey. Now, of course, winter was a trying time for the Narnians, but in our world, it can seem just as challenging. That's why I want to tell you about the sponsor of today's video, BetterHelp. You know, for many of us, myself included, the new year can be a difficult time. We take stock of where we are in life, what we wish we could change, and all too often, we can feel like we're stuck or even falling behind. I know for myself, I have so many new ideas for this channel and so many expectations about how to reach more people with this message, but it can be so time-consuming, and it can definitely feel overwhelming. Talking to a therapist from BetterHelp can make sense of the vague feelings of falling behind and turn them into clear, concrete concerns that can be addressed. They can even help develop the personalized tools needed to truly measure progress at an individual level, one step at a time. Now, the cool thing about BetterHelp is that it's fully online, making therapy more comfortable and convenient. You can just fill out a questionnaire and you will match with a therapist in as little as a couple of days. And you can easily switch therapists anytime at no extra cost if it's not the right fit. If you use the link in the description below, you can get a 10% discount on your first month of therapy. So get started today. And finally, there was a third way. Number 3, local resources. Now, you may think that over the course of the century, there may not be much food available in the land of Narnia itself, naturally speaking. However, we catch a glimpse of this possibility going back again to the dinner served in the Beaver's Lodge. What was served to the children but fresh caught fish, which were readily available in the cold waters under the icy river surface, and as a side dish, potatoes, which are also a staple in the icy Nordic countries of our world due to their ability to grow quickly in cold climates. There may have also been other cold weather vegetation that could have provided nutrition to the Narnian animals in the food chain, including things like the Arctic willow or the dwarf willow, crowberries and bearberries. Even lichens can sustain animals like reindeer and Arctic hares and mountain goats and bighorn sheep. Both talking animals and dumb beasts alike could have gained sustenance from these Arctic plants. Now, some of these things could have been accomplished artificially through Narnian greenhouses, but there is another possibility, and it's one that surprised me when I came across it in Narnian history. I believe that there is evidence that while the Narnian winter was unbroken for 100 years, Jadis did allow brief thaws to take place, maybe in order to sustain the food supply for the Narnians. Remember, she wanted to keep the population alive, even if just barely. Now, these thaws could have been done throughout the land, though more reasonably, they could have been done on rotation across small regions. And given the incredibly rapid growth rate of Narnian vegetation, these areas wouldn't have to have been thawed for very long in order to produce new fruit and propagate new plants. So, what evidence do I have for this? Well, there are a few things. First of all, there's the business of the ice fishing. Now, while most lakes and rivers do indeed remain unfrozen beneath the surface during winter months, 100 years is a long time for a body of water to stay liquid in freezing temperatures. Even in our world, you can see bodies of water like Lake Baikal in Siberia, which is the largest and deepest lake in the world, and it often becomes frozen in the winter months. Now, one of the ways that these rivers may remain flowing is because of Jadis's regular thaws. And then you also have Mr. Beaver's Dam, which is described as having flash frozen waves at its base and icicles where water was coming in over the top. Unless Mr. Beaver built the dam before Jadis's spell and was therefore over 100 years old, this water must have been melted and flash frozen much more recently. It would also explain why Mr. Beaver was so concerned with repairing his dam and so happy when Father Christmas made the repairs for him. I mean, why worry about a leaky dam if your world was always ice? Unless it was sometimes water. And finally, there's the words of Jadis's servant dwarf. As he watched Jadis's magic crumble and the snow slowly melt, he at first didn't really pay it much mind. Only when the seasonal change could no longer be ignored did he blurt out, "This is no thaw, this is spring." See, Jadis and the dwarf both knew that thaws would come and go, but spring was an altogether different story. Now, believe it or not, we could continue to talk about all the things that Narnians need for survival in the harsh winter, whether it be textiles, fuel, transportation, construction. And honestly, I think there are some really plausible explanations for all of these things. But there's one resource that would have been absolutely essential for any people facing a bleak and seemingly endless tyrannical existence. And without it, survival would be impossible. That thing is hope. Hope that sustains you when food is scarce. Hope that shines a light in the bleakest winter night. Hope that warms your heart even when your body's shivering. And for the Narnians, that hope was given in the form of the Golden Age prophecy. The Narnians held on to the hope in this promise. Wrong will be right when Aslan comes in sight. At the sound of his roar, sorrows will be no more. When he bares his teeth, winter meets its death. And when he shakes his mane, we shall have spring again.